Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Lunch and Learn at Museum of the Bible. I'm Jared Wolf, the editorial manager here at the museum, and I'm very excited about today's Lunch and Learn for a couple of reasons, not the least being that our speaker is a man who has been described as a living legend of Bible design. But before we get to that, let me also say that this is our first Lunch and Learn that is both in person and virtual. So in future, if you're in the area and it's the last Wednesday of the month, we hope you'll come down and share your lunch here with us and enjoy one of our speakers. So hopefully we'll see you in the future. Today, our speaker is Klaus Krogh, President and CEO of the company 2K in Denmark. Klaus works on fonts and on book design and has been doing so for most of his life. He designed his first font at the age of 13 and laid out his first magazine the year after that. In 1987, he founded the company then called 2Krogh, today known as 2K, and has been working on Bible design for over 40 years. 2K, his company, has 4 areas of specialization. The first being the actual design of type or of fonts. The second being design of the overall book. The third being advanced typesetting, the laying out of a book. And the fourth, concept development of Bibles, that is, of laying out and designing the Word of God to be the most readable. And so today, I will turn it over to Klaus, who is going to talk to us about the way we read our Bibles. Klaus?
Well, thank you very much. It's really a pleasure being here, and I've been looking forward to talk a little bit of what we do so that you can read your Bible maybe even a little better. So the title of this talk is The Way You Read the Bible, or the way you read the Bible, because I'm sure there's a lot of ways to read the Bible, and we all have sort of a preferred way. I will start by giving you some statements that I think is true for everybody. So we read the Bible like Chinese. I'll come back to that.
Okay.
We read white space, so we don't only read the letters, we read the white space. And
if you say so.
Yeah. Beauty enhances readability. Beauty enhances a lot of things. It's a beautiful building we're in. The exhibitions are beautiful, but it also enhances your reading. Well, I'll come back to that. I won't talk about that now. Just a short presentation of the company. We were, as already said, established in 1987. My Norwegian wife and I started the company. Actually, 2 days from now, the 1st of October, we will turn 34. We are now present in 43 countries. We have our production facilities around the world as well. And we are very proud of actually being presented. Our work are being presented in any language. We do Chinese typesetting for China. And you might ask why we do that. It's because when we create a concept, often the success lies in the detail. And doing the concept includes doing the typesetting as well. And it's not, the language is not that important. It's important that you know the Bible, and we do. So to make a true representation of the Bible, it's actually knowing the content.
Okay.
We define design as making things work, not necessarily making them beautiful, but if they work, they represent the beauty. And of course, that's the other angle than making it beautiful.
I don't know what,
but we think that first and foremost, it has to work. And we make design as a part of the communication process. We know that this is not free art. We are actually serving a purpose with what we do. And we know that we create interfaces. Interfaces is the place where information is that the reader meets the information. So a book is an interface. It might be a brochure. It might be something digital communication, but being aware of that we're not doing our design just to be presented as an idea, but being actually produced and presented to the reader is very important for us. So very quickly, yes, we do type design, book design, typesetting, and we do concept development. When I talk to publishers, sort of our hard promise is that we actually are capable, when we do, for instance, a new type, that we can create higher readability. That's, of course, the most important thing. Why would you publish a Bible that you couldn't read? Mm-hmm. And we do better design and thereby brand their Bible translation or even their publishing house by the Bible they're producing. It's often the case that the Bible is the most important thing. If you've got that in your repertoire, sure, that's the most important thing you do. And we control page count. Often we can save 20%, maybe 30% of an actual book count. And we do that and surprise people like beautiful, readable, and slim books much better than thick, unreadable, ugly ones. So in that case, this is the qualities that we would like to present to anybody publishing Bibles. Now I'm going to talk about this book. And this is the Illustrated Catholic Bible. We did all 4 of these disciplines creating this one, and it's just out. It's published by Catholic Bible Press. But first, I'm going to talk a little bit about sort of the background, the inspirational background you need to construct to design a typeface, because a typeface is not only a work of design. First of all, it is, you know, what you see, but underneath these famous 90% is actually a data program that executes the actual typeface. And above that, or sort of a part in the creation process, you need to have an idea. When we do font design for Bibles, we try to find the personality of a translation and present that so you can recognize it in the design. And we've done that for the complete Comfort Print series. This Catholic typeface is the 7th, so the last we've done for HCCP up until now. And I got this assignment, and being a Lutheran, I thought, well, how am I going to present in a true way all Catholic Bible translations? And so I booked a ticket to Rome and a hotel for 3 days, and thought, if I can't get inspired in Rome, I can get inspired nowhere. And I went there, and the first thing I did was phone the Vatican and say, well, I'm going to do a Catholic typeface. And they said, you're going to do what? And I repeated that, and they say, well, you can come 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, because they wanted to hear more about that. And that was actually very, very good. I had a very pleasant meeting. I lost my way in the Vatican. It's not very big, but I managed to lost my way because I was looking for one place, and that was Via della Typografia. And I mean, what more sign do you need? They go look for inspiration for a Catholic typeface. You follow the street signs in the Vatican. And we actually use this as an inspiration for the dimension of the uppercase letters. And these are in turn the same as the column of Trajan. This was put there in 113, yes, commemorating 2 victories. And these are not only classical samples of an uppercase letter, but it's also a very economical. They're actually very narrow, so they work well if you are out there trying to save pages. Always. So that was the sort of first inspiration. The second thing I did was I walked around looking for secondhand bookstores, and the last one I found was no more than a hole in the wall. In there, I found a Bible. I'll show you the next picture. This is a Venetian typeface, but actually, I'll show you the hole in the wall first. And that was the bookstore. I went in there, and there was, I mean, I'm old, but there was an old man there, and I asked him to show me Bibles, and he showed me a couple of new ones, and I said, no, I want an old Bible. and he sighed, and he pulled forth this ladder, and he went up 6 stairs above the door actually, and he found a Bible, and it's here, and that was a Bible printed in Venice, 1574. A beautiful Bible, Bible printing and design of typefaces from Gutenberg and Mainz in the 1440s. Actually quickly went to Venice as the gravity point of development of design, and this was a typical example of that. Beautiful Bible. We'll just look inside and see that it's actually a Venetian typeface that's in there, and it's the original with the original binding and stuff. And he asked the price for it. And I said, well, that's not in my traveling budget. And I went home. I went home to the hotel, and I didn't sleep for one night. So I went down and pulled out the money and I bought it. Later, I found out there's only 17 left of the same book. I do treasure it. It became the one of the 3 inspirations to the typeface, but it also later became a part of the concept. And the last bit of inspiration I found was because I, in another shop, found a book called Lezioni di Competizione, a book from 1890, and that's a special period in Italian type history. There's a typeface called Bodoni, and Bodoni was popular from 1790 and 20, 40 years forthward. It has very, very heavy lines, very thin lines, and it's unusual for anything more than writing Vogue on the top of a magazine, because they use it still. And if it's should look very fancy, you use Bodoni. But for instance, I've seen it used in Bibles, and it's hopeless.
Oh.
But the Italians that sort of invented this style, they kept on to this style for 100 years. So 70 years longer than the rest of Europe. And when they came out of it, they had gotten used to a different style of lettering, and that's represented in this book. For instance, I don't know whether anybody can see it, but there's some italic letters, ZZ up in the top, and it's completely staged. They had for a long while in Italy actually another approach in designing typefaces because of that Bodoni period. So I called this post-Bodoni Italian elegance, and I really think you should look more into that. So there's a lot of inspirational background there. So these 3 things we combined into a typeface, and this is then when we do a typeface, there are 300-400 letters, and we use the open type typeface amount of letters. So you can, there's a Czech name in the Bible, there aren't, but if there were, we could have spelled that as well. And these are some of the more elaborate figures, and we felt that a Catholic Bible needed more decoration, and so we put that in. So that's the result.
That's certainly beautiful. What can you tell us about some of the individual letters, especially these with the ligatures that send out the Q and the Z? And what prompted that?
Yes, so the Q and C, I wouldn't call ligatures, but they would be swatch.
Okay.
But it's got all the basic literature. So you have the CT literature. You have all the stuff that goes into that, and also I think needed that little more spiciness.
Yes.
And being Catholic, also music and art and all these things that are sort of a part of being.
Okay. Well, perhaps we can see some of it in the Bible, how it works out, how it lays out across the pages.
Maybe you could, but I started off telling you that you read like Chinese, and I thought I'll just maybe tell you a little bit about that as well. My statement: we all read like Chinese. Now, do we now? You are thinking, but we do, and I'll show you what I mean. Here, by the way, you see some of the details of the lettering. That's a word, isn't it? After. And do you know how you read that? You didn't read the single letters and put that together into a word. You saw a picture, and that picture you recognized. So actually, this is a letterscape sort of creating a word, and that word you've learned as a picture. So in that sense, you are actually reading like a Chinese reader that recognizes symbol. Your symbol is just put together with these letters, these magnificent 74 letters that are capable of putting together to words to communicate over space and time.
Yes.
That can keep everything that's important or difficult or even holy. And we can communicate now 2,000 years later, and we still use these minute abstractions.
Yes.
Yes. And so you might say, well, that's probably not true, but I think it is that you read letterscapes, because if I change it a little bit, it falls apart. And then you are suddenly now forced to spell it, to read it. It's because it doesn't look like the picture you used to see. And that the same is true if I put it a little bit more together. Then you struggle a little bit to recognize it, and then you start to read the single letters to actually see the word that's so easy to read when it's looking like this. So that's the argument. You actually read like Chinese. We all do. So we recognize words. You might say, well, Chinese is 50,000 different small drawings, and that must be much more complicated than reading English. To your information, you have 170,000 words at least, and I'm sure that if you use them, nobody does, not all of them at least, but if you did, your brain was capable of recognizing all 170,000 words without reading it, without using the letters as letters to put together. It would be completely impossible to read aloud if you were to look at the letters and construct the word. That would not be possible. And you can, we all can. I had another statement. We read white space. And you might say, nah, we read the letters. And that's partly true, and only partly true, because the word after I put in into the word after is in the Bible. So this is a piece of Bible text. Put it back in the Bible. And if you, this is, by the way, the beautiful typeface. You can see this is the Italian typeface with all the Eastgate in line 4 with the beautiful ligatures and stuff. So it's all in there. And this is how you can read a text. It's pretty easy to read this text. It's a very interesting text about repair of a house. But if I did like, we turned it like this, so putting in a lot more space between the lines, suddenly something happens. And you might argue that I can still read every line, and you might even read it better, but the sort of it doesn't appear forth-running in the same way. And I will argue that this too much white space, because we read white space, actually hinder your thought-worth reading, just as if we were to take away letting space.
Yes.
Then you'll struggle. And of course, in the Bible, you want it to be a certain number of pages. If you put too much space between the lines, a 1,600-page Bible will grow to 3,000 pages, and you wouldn't be able to carry it around. That should be an argument to put the lines closer together. But as you read line space, you cannot read this. So let's put back the line spacing, and everybody can be a little bit secure that it's there. Yeah, so you can read it. So that was the third thing. And beauty enhances readability. My last statement. And we wanted to create this Catholic typeface, and we wanted to put in all the scent and all the music and so on. So I was looking for places where I could do that more than in an ordinary typeface. And In this case, we made an analysis of English and found out which letters are the most common at the ending of words. And these letters are here. And then what we did was we made a ligature, so a binding of two letters. But in this case, we took a letter and bound it to a full stop or a comma. So it's a ligature from full. I haven't seen this ever before. By doing that, we created an element of elegance and of decoration. But that's the good part. We actually use it to eliminate the third problem of spacing in typography. We talked about the spacing between letters. We talked about the spacing between lines. Now the spacing between words are a problem, because if you want a text to have adjusted right edge, then the only place you can space it, if you don't want to ruin your reading completely by spacing it by the letters, it's between the words. So although this might look okay, and you didn't say anything when I showed it to you the first time, it's the same text. If you compare the space between words between line 1 and line 2, you would actually see that there's a difference. And I would argue that that different space, as we all know that we read white space, that you don't need that white space and you'd rather leave it out. And if we then impose these nice decorations, then we take line 1 and line 2 again, look at those. If we take away the white space between the words and put it where you need it, so in the ending of a sentence by a comma or by a full stop, then suddenly you have a place to breathe, and we impose the decorations into the typography. You want to see this again, I'm sure. So I'll just flip back and forth again. so that's the 3 statements I got, and aligned to how you space your typography in these 3 different ways. And we try to make it. I think it's the first time that we actually utilize the space you don't want between the words for both decorations and help in reading aloud.
Very interesting.
So 4 things: type design, book design, typesetting, and concept development. Coming home with this very, very beautiful Bible, it was obvious that that the illustrations were there, and they are real wood cuts. So in very soft wood, and some of them have been used in other publications. It was easy to see. They didn't have the same format, and they were placed very intensively in the beginning of the Old Testament and beginning of the New Testament, and leaving the rest of the Bible wanting. So we didn't scan it. We photographed the illustrations, and then we spent a lot of time ensuring that the angles were right, imposing a frame around it so they would fit, and then actually reproducing, making the pictures reproducible in a modern printing. And that's 514 illustrations. So it's a huge illustrative input to a Bible. And I think often it enhances a Bible also to have illustrations that sort of can lead you another way. You look at a picture and suddenly you start reading in a place you didn't expect to read in the Bible, which is very important, because you don't read sort of the few books that you often read, and you come other places. And we even use the illustration. If you look at that one, we even use the illustrations as cross references, because when we redistributed the illustration around in the Bible, we kept the verse where it originally belonged and the verse that we assigned it to. So we can even probably see that in the captions, there's a blank line, and that's dividing the 2 lines where it came from and where we placed it. So this is what it looks like. Yes, and we're extremely proud to be working together with Catholic Bible Press, part of HCCP, to create this concept. That's what we do. So it's a love for the Bible and the Bible text. We know that the Bible changes lives, and we would like to do our little part to make sure that it's as good as it can be for as many people to engage and read more.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, thank you very much for that. Let me turn it out to the audience. Let me ask if there are any questions, whether coming in from online or here in the room. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Fascinating, very enlightening. You did a lot of work to come up with it. How much variety is, how often do you do this? How much variety is there in the books you produce?
Yes, now I could have, I carry 50 kilos around, and that's just because I carry so many Bibles, and they are completely different. And you might say, well, look at the letters, there are only these letters, and how can you vary the shape and so on? That's not a problem at all. We use the stylistic history. We combine it, and we find the identity for each and every translation that we display in a new typeface. And we, HarperCollins Christian, have commissioned 7 different typeface families. So we made 56 fonts of full typefaces within a few years, making that the biggest type design project ever for the Bible. And if you try to compare, they're extremely different. Within a half a year, we will publish a book with all the 7 different typeface families, and the inspirational story will be behind it, just like the trip to Rome. There's a story to each and every one of them. And I'm sure when you read that and when you've seen the different types, you will see that there's a lot of variety, and you can easily tell them apart, even if you don't have any design or typographical education. You know what? This effect that we read like Chinese, this effect that we recognize letterscapes as words, is actually extremely basic. I think that humans have an ability to read emotions by looking at faces. We can look at a face and know whether to pull out your hand or turn around and run. And that's very important. That's very, very minute differences in a face. And they call it typefaces. But I think we use that to recognize the words. That ability to see very, very small variations. But that means that if you read something that's close to your heart, with a certain typeface, you will marry these two things together. So recognizing the words and the text you read, so that it's very difficult to change. When you read your favorite Bible and you pick up another one, it's almost not the same content, although it might be. But,
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Jared, go ahead.
So right now you have several Bibles coming out. The Cambridge Bible took you 11 years, the Tyndale House 4.5 years, the Daily Reader, I'm not sure how long, all of them amazing, different projects. What would be the longest amount of time that it's taken you and your team to produce a Bible? That's one question. Second question is, you mentioned 74 characters. Is that the Cambodian language you're talking about? I mean, you're talking about 74 different characters a little bit ago?
no,
So 2 questions, totally unrelated.
Okay. You want to start with the first question then about
how long time?
how long? Yes.
Well, I will say there's only one Bible that's important for us, only one. And that's the one we're working on right now, because we want it to be as best as possible, and if possible, better than the last one. So that's the ideology. And if it takes a lot of time, well, probably meant to take a lot of time. The Cambridge Bible, the Doré family Bible, commemorating both John Baskerville and Gustave Doré. Yes, it took 11 years. We meant it to be a publication to commemorate John Baskerville. So 250 years anniversary of the Folio Bible. That would mean that it should publish in 2013, it didn't. But nevertheless, we are extremely grateful that we could work together with a concept commemorating both Gustave Doré and John Baskerville, and that it was published by Cambridge University Press, the oldest publishing house in the world, publishing Bibles. So in that sense, and I think that might be the longest wait we have had for a concept until it was published. On the other hand, time is not especially important here. I mean, the Bible text is there forever, isn't it? So much rather spend a lot of time, years, decades even, to complete a project, if that means that we can achieve a higher level of quality. And about the letters, I don't know, I meant to say 27, but we're working on Ethiopian, and they have 176 letters. So there's still some challenging out there. So.
Absolutely. Okay, so some questions we've had from people online is actually about how do you actually figure how much white space is enough white space, is the right amount? Is that actually a measurement? Is that a feeling? How do you go about?
You only have one way to find out, and that's looking at it.
Okay.
Because sort of being creative and creating fonts is a visual art. So you want, maybe it sounds a little strange, but we are actually, for me, painting a picture or music activity would be exactly the same thing. So it's trying to achieve some image you've got and aligning every choice you take design-wise to that image that you're trying to create. It's difficult to get close to that. I mean, if you play an instrument, if you play an orchestra, if you sing in a choir, you know when it's right. You know when, oh, we hit it there. That was perfect. And it's the same thing. Okay. I don't think you can quantify it. Yes. It's sort of the playing between light and shadow. And you know what? When I went to university, I think I could name 1,500 different typefaces. Okay. And the way I differentiate typefaces, it's not by looking like at the single letter. It's not by looking at the word. I look at the color and the structure of a book page. So when I look at a book page, I needn't see any lettering at all. So I recognize it by the color and by the structure. And that's the same thing, isn't it? So you want to achieve for the single letter, you want to achieve for the combination of letters, and you want to achieve for a full page that same color. And so spacing is a question about color. Okay. So how close do you want your shadow and your light to become?
Yeah. Perfect. Oh, very interesting. Let me ask you another question from someone online. Speaking about making a Catholic Bible, some other people wanted to ask if you had made other denominational Bibles, say a Lutheran Bible or a Calvin type Bible.
And the question would be, yes.
Yes.
We do approximately 200 Bibles a year. And we work with absolutely all the major publishing houses in the US. And we work with, 43 countries all over the world. So I think it's fair to say, I think we've made any kind of Bible.
Okay.
We want to achieve sort of a high standards, whatever Bible we make. I will admit I'm a little colorblind. When you talk about Christian denominations, as long as you believe that Jesus is your brother and savior, I'm good with you.
Okay. Let me ask something then about the transition between print and digital. So when you're designing typefaces and page layout. What's different from laying that out in a book, so on a physical medium, versus laying it out on the digital screen for people who are reading online or reading on their apps? Or do you?
Yes.
Or do you do that?
See, I'll start another place.
Okay.
When the printed book was invented, it took 60 years until pagination was introduced. So the main thing about a printed book and a digital, you always know when you're on the same page in a printed book.
Yes.
But nevertheless, it took 60 years before they invented the pagination. So how old is digital reading? I think that when you talk about digital reading, it's very, very important to realize that although we've had our smartphones for 10, 15 years now, something like that, digital reading is not matured yet. Far from it, because all the stuff we can do for a printed book in the programs we have now, and all the aided design makes that a much more fulfilling experience to read from a book.
Absolutely.
And all the qualities are the same. So the demand for the qualities that you find in a book, you should also expect from your digital reading, but you're not getting it now because the technology is not there yet. I mean, the letters should be much more sharp and crisp. Looking at the screen, they're not. All the spacing is incomplete, and there's a lot of function. Of course, the digital reading can have a functionality. You click something and you get something else, and the success probably lies in the combination. And the combination. A lot of publishing houses, especially maybe Tyndale House Publishing, has invented the filament technology, where you can, looking at a page, only point your phone at the page pagination and get the extra material on your phone while you read the book. And you get the best of both things.
Best of both worlds.
Yeah, but I'm sure that that digital communication on digital screen will develop very much in the future. We're just seeing the beginning.
Okay, very good. Yes.
Of the 43 countries that you worked with, Klaus, can you tell us a story about maybe one of those projects that really moved you or inspired you that you can remember?
Yeah, well, I try to remember. So 200 Bibles is a lot. I can tell you about the sort of the first international Bible that we really made. I was working at the Norwegian Bible Society before my wife and I started the company 43 years ago. And we started the company and we started doing local design job like branding and so on. But at one point, we got an invitation from the Dutch Bible Society. They have decided for their new translation to ask 3 designers from the Netherlands and then 3 international designers to present a design for the 7 editions they want to publish. And I went there and I looked at the papers and I thought it was extremely nice that they asked me. I went home and I said to the staff, they've asked us for this, we're not gonna win this. They're gonna pick a Dutch designer for sure. So the full description of these 7 Bibles we threw away. And then we made the 7 Bibles exactly how we would want them. So we didn't refer to their description, and we won 6 of the 7 Bibles to do. So since then, that's at least, I mean, I think the relationship to God's word in a printed form, it's so much more important. So that's, I presume that's what they saw in our suggestions. At least we won 6 out of the 7 books, and we've been doing, I think, basically all Dutch Bibles ever since for 30 years. Norwegian's Bible came along as well. When we were contacted by the Chinese Bible Society in Hong Kong, where they've seen, we made a book that's the 4 Gospels that we rearranged completely. We color coded the 4 Gospels. Then we took it apart and put it together again in the sequence of the life of Jesus. And we made it parallel, so a synoptic, but not a traditional synoptic, but in the sequence of the life of Jesus. And that's out in 7 or 8 languages now. And then doing that in Chinese and these Chinese symbols with the different colors for each gospel. I think that moved us a little bit because knowing that the Chinese situation and you've got all these people that are persecuted for being Christian, and they have to hide their faith away. I mean, to be able just to help a little bit there to present a greater understanding, I think that's fine. Also, that concept actually relates a little bit to my relationship to the Bible. I think that you can take any part of the Bible and compare it to any other part of the Bible. It might take you 20 years, but it'll make sense to you. I think God gave us the Bible also to humble us a little bit, knowing that we are not the most intelligent in the world. We need time and we need to study to be able for the complete Bible to make sense. And we're not getting there, not
We can't hear you. We can't hear you.
Of course. Well, instead of punching these braille letters into a paper, we just print them with this raised color.
Yes.
But alas, when blind people try to read it, they got so sore with fingertips because it was plastic and it was not very good for their fingers. So a lot of stuff there. A lot of stuff. We also made a full Bible in Maltese. See, Maltese is the only Aramaic language that are spelled with Latin letters. That is to say, with so many variants and differences, that even understanding more than Jerusalem and Jesus was impossible. That was a bit complicated.
Okay. Oh, absolutely. We just received a few of the Maltese Bibles of your production. I would.
Well, I wouldn't know. I've had to have a look at them.
Well, we'll have to double check that. Okay. Well, we'll end up with just one fun question. Hopefully, what is your favorite? What's the favorite font you've created in your lifetime?
Yeah. I'll probably say the next one.
Very good. Very good. That's the right answer. All right. Well, for those of you here today, or for those of you that are out in the virtual audience, please want to let you know that the Bible, the Illustrated Catholic Bible, is for sale in the gift shop and hopefully on the online store as well. So please come through, take a look, hopefully purchase a copy, and we'll hopefully have many more of Klaus's Bibles for sale here because of how beautiful and wonderful they are. Before we go, I want to, of course, invite all of you next month to the Lunch and Learn. We're going to have our lead curator of art and exhibits, Amy Van Dyke, speaking about differences in nativity scenes, both across the world in time and space. So make sure you tune in for that, and we'll get ready for Christmas. Okay, thank you very much, Klaus. Thank you very much, and a good day to all.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's very good.